Good morning and welcome to the 2026 AAAS annual meeting SciMic stage supported by the George Washington University, being presented in person and streaming online. I'm your host, Jessica Hubbard, and we are continuing our lineup of interviews this morning with Julie Fischer, course director in the Department of Microbiology and Immunology at Georgetown University. Welcome to the SciMic stage.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Happy to be here.
Can you give me a little bit, or can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I am, by training, a microbiologist. I got my doctorate in microbiology and immunology and did a very traditional postdoc. Like many people who are attending here this week, I went to AAAS as a science policy technology fellow and worked on the Hill, which changed the course of my career. And since then, I've worked in and out of science. So I have worked in public health. I have been an implementing partner for the US CDC, for Department of Defense, FBI, Department of State, working at the intersection of capacity building for laboratory detection of emerging infectious diseases, strengthening biosecurity, and understanding what to do to respond when something unusual happens, whether it's a naturally occurring outbreak or something that could be more suspicious.
And you'll be talking a little bit more about your work in your workshop later, which is titled, which I love, by the way, From Mordor to Mars, a Science Communication Workshop. And that's later today, correct?
That is. It's 11:30 today, and it builds on a curriculum that I have put together with my teaching partner, who is sitting here, Dr. Taylor Winkleman. We have, for the past several years, worked in a program called the Masters in Biohazardous Threat Agents. And one of the courses we teach is called Public Policy for Scientists. So we're bringing a little bit of what we teach to the conference here today to talk about how scientists can identify issues that are important to them and craft convincing advocacy messages to try to create communities to solve problems.
So let's take a step back and kind of look at your career, if that's all right. Can you let me, or enlighten the audience about how you got into your line of work?
Yeah, so that long pathway that I described a minute ago from the AAAS fellowship, I worked on the Hill with the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs and had an opportunity to work with people who focus on policy and understand that while evidence is absolutely critically important, it is not sufficient to guide decision making. There's a lot of other factors that go into how decisions are crafted, who supports them, what endures. And I became very interested in the question of durability. How do we make systems that are durable, that don't break down when attention shifts, when resources wane? So that really drove me to go into this area of better understanding what we mean by capacity building, how you understand the tools, the resources, the skills, and the knowledge that it takes to accelerate the ability, in my case, to prevent, detect, and respond effectively to unusual biological events. But really what it takes to build networks that last, and how to use technologies and advancing approaches to keep enhancing and not lose momentum on systems we've created.
And I feel like there could be multiple answers for this, but what motivates you to do your work?
Well, what motivates me to do the work that will be featured in the workshop today is my students. I have an opportunity every year to work with a cohort of students that come to Georgetown, looking to understand how they take their science backgrounds and apply them at the intersection of national security and policy. And they are challenging. Their world changes every few years. Their assumptions change every few years.
Right.
So it's very motivating to try to figure out how to present an honest view of the world we're in now without descending into cynicism, and giving them the tools that they need to be lifelong learners and lifelong builders.
And so thinking about the role of mentorship, and you described a little bit of what you do, how has mentorship played a role in your life?
I think it's very hard. We struggle without mentors. Working without a mentor is like walking into a cold wind. And a mentor helps
That's a good analogy.
shield the wind and give you room to grow. And that's, I think, what I learned. My mentor, my graduate mentor was Barney Graham, who's a vaccine researcher and a distinguished vaccine researcher who showed me that you could be smart and hardworking and diligent and always be kind, which was a lesson I hope that I reflected then to my students, to offer mentorship, to say, here's what you're capable of doing. What are the skills and the tools you need to move toward your dream? And to trust their own capabilities as long as they have an opportunity to trust that they're enough.
I really like the phrase "trust your capabilities" and inspiring people to believe in themselves. What would you say? And you mentioned students. What would you say to someone who is aspiring to join your field of work?
So my field of work is so weird. I'm not really sure that there's a way to join it on purpose. I get invited to a lot of career talks where people say, how do I get your job? And I say a series of questionable decisions. But I think that the important thing is to understand if you're a scientist interested in policy, as so many scientists are right now, looking at the, again, context in which we are now operating, and the people who are here are self-selected for an even more intensely interested group of that the key is don't try to become a science policy professional, become a very good scientist, and then learn about policy and the policy levers that you can pursue. Because it is actually, while not easy, more straightforward to teach a scientist who already knows how to do analysis, consider data, craft good arguments, to understand the science of policy, which does have its own base of knowledge. It's not simple, but it's something that scientists can learn. It's possible but harder to become a policy professional and learn science. But don't try to learn the intersection. Become a very good scientist and then learn policy tools.
Well said. I want to pivot to kind of the last phase of the interview. We do science work, right? But that's not all we do as, as people, individuals. And so I've been asking scientists, what are you reading right now, or even any other hobbies that you partake in that you find joy in? My hobbies, I do Irish dancing. Nice.
Yeah, not well. I'm reading right now Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer.
Someone else suggested that book yesterday.
Yeah, it's really interesting because she comes with a very interesting perspective to ecology and looking at indigenous knowledge and science and the intersection between both of them. And a phrase she uses frequently is restorification, telling new stories about what we observe, which is, I think, a really interesting concept for understanding how science is used and perceived in different communities and in different settings.
My reading list is going to be very long after the annual meeting. It keeps getting more books on there. Are there any final thoughts that you would like to leave with listeners here in Phoenix or anyone who is tuning in online?
Yeah, I think we are in a place right now where we need, as a scientific community, to recognize that a lot of the support that we took for granted previously seems to be shakier than we expected, or more fragmented, not as cohesive. And I think that's left a lot of us asking, questioning how society values our knowledge, what we've worked hard to do, what we observe as the product of deliberate and hard crafted work. And I think in a time when so many systems seem to be profoundly broken, it's a really good time not to ask, what is the tiny incremental thing I can do to make the world better? But systems are broken. We don't have to pretend that what was okay anymore just needs incremental change. We can say, what do we want the future to look like, and really aim for it and get our messages together and work as a very diverse and very eccentric but extraordinarily smart, motivated, and driven community to get to the world we want. So that's my message right now. And I'm looking for that community and hoping that that community has lots of room for different thoughts and strategies.
I really appreciate you joining me on the SciMike stage today. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been fantastic.